He was looking at the How's it going? How much memory do you have in those photos? Like 10 terabytes.
Is your last meeting?
What do? You download everything and delete from the phone afterward? Or you keep buying iCloud storage?
I have different storages. I cloud one of the storage. Also, there is some tools right now in 50-50. It's like, Restream. Restream. They have a cloud storage.
Yeah.
They might publish on a lot of platforms.
There is, but this, like these versions with USB-C, you can plug directly an SSD.
Yeah.
And record there.
But the problem is the format is strangely don't work well. It's like I'm trying to upload from the phone to MacBook.
Yeah.
And
If you edit in Premiere or anything like that,
give us a couple of days, we will transfer this. Because average file size is like 60.
Did you guys register that? It's okay. You can
it's better. If you manage everything from the phone,
Oh, I want to roll up the
Played badminton today.
because we want to check out the frog.
why?
Well, he died.
Someone fun. What happened to your hair?
She's like,
Why?
because I'm broke.
okay, are you? Wait a minute, I kind of.
Unacceptable.
What will happen to all of us?
Yeah.
What will happen to all of us?
Speak for yourself. There we get there.
One ticket to Turkish Airlines.
Yeah, you get all that red patch around you.
Oh, man.
Were you shocked?
I'm checking your job, your flight, you get 5 sign-ups. He wants my books. He has his books. That's
Yeah, so
How are you?
yeah, coffee. How are you?
That's what. Yeah, I was with since a little bit. And then they were like, we're going. I was like,
Good evening, everybody. Good to have you all here on a Friday. The mics aren't working, but I think I'm loud enough. So what I'd like to do is invite everyone who's new here for the first time to walk up, introduce yourselves, and then we can get on with the agenda. Do you want to come up? Go ahead. Guys, who's new? Who's for the first time? Please join me. Did we have a few as well, haven't we? Have you been here before? Yourself? You've been here before? Come on, join us. You'll have to shout though. You got a few. So who wants to go first? Does he have to shout? Alright, you start, go for it.
Yeah. So I'm not a founder yet. That's why I'm here, actually to learn. I'm actually originally from Pakistan. I just moved here 2 months ago. So just checking out. I'm interested in tech. My background is in ML. I'm an ML engineer. So yeah, I just want to learn from you all and also from the Adel. Thank you.
My name is Hameed. From London to Italy to Dubai. Just moved here a couple of days ago. Working product management. Working with a kitchen now, which is like a cloud kitchen. Before I was in energy, and then I bet in. And yeah, just come here to meet people.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mika. I'm founder of M2 Fund. This is Web3 application for collecting investments in the UAE. It's a pleasure to be here, and on the networking sessions, if someone is interested, I can give you that. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Ishan. I'm a consultant in discretion and director of quality improvements. Just come from the UK, from Oxford to Dubai, and now I'm working at Dubai Health. The reason I'm here, I've got a side hustle and have co-founded a platform which we've established back in the UK, but we're now endorsing here in Dubai, which is a collaboration and networking platform which works on a time credit basis, so kind of 1 hour equals 1 credit. So it serves communities, enterprises to share knowledge and skills across the field. So that's why I'm here. I'm here to learn from you as other founders and get networked myself here with an institution. Nice to be here.
What is the name of your platform?
Ah, thank you. That's my first mistake tonight. I didn't even mention that. The platform is called Hexitime. Hexitime.com if you want. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Alina. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Proximy.io. We're an indoor navigation, indoor mapping platform. And yeah, I'm from Finland and I've been here for a few months.
Indoor navigation is 3D
Did everyone vote? We can do the 3D as well. Did you vote?
Where?
Did you announce?
Yeah.
Oh,
Everyone.
It was free.
okay.
Thank you, everybody. So without taking much of your time, I'd love to introduce a gentleman, Mr. Adel, who would love to tell us about his experience. Thank you for that. And tell us more about his book.
Yeah. For now, just get entertained with this while they fix.
What's happened?
I think like just today is not quite
Anyways, while the team are working on the presentation, thank you everyone for being present here today. This is the first presentation I'm doing physically after publishing the book. So, and I'm not looking at it as a presentation. I'm expecting you as well to interact with someone, share your feedback with me. If it's not during the presentation, maybe after the presentation, some suggestions, because this is the first edition as well. So, and I'm working on the second book right now, and I'm looking for stories. So, yeah, I'm on the search. If you have any stories, please share them. Just by raise of hands, how many of you are currently working for your own startup or for a startup? That's excellent. How many of you are looking for a job in a startup as a leader? Or just looking for a job as a startup? So this gives me, sorry? Yeah. No, because for me as well, I started my own companies and then I joined the startup for the past 5 years, who was my client as well. So, so it's always unpredictable. So the book title is SkillUp as you scale. The whole philosophy behind it is you build things on the go, you make quick corrections if something goes wrong, and you incrementally build on the processes and the functions that you have within the startup. So the idea behind it is that to join and succeed, to join a startup and succeed at a startup role, you need to have a specific mindset. I made the mistake multiple times of joining a startup or having my own startup, and then because I'm trained by the corporate world, when I come to the startup, I always expect certain resources to be present. And then when I go and read leadership books, they're built for the corporate world, they're not built for the startup world. And then when I read the startup books, they're built for companies in Silicon Valley. They're not built for companies within our region, which are developing ecosystems. The way the investors think is totally different. The governments, they think in a different manner. Everything is probably a bit behind places like Silicon Valley. So we need, and probably it's morphing in its own way. It will have its own personality and characteristics. So what I'm sharing here is a set of principles that is, some of it is from the lessons I learned, from the mistakes I made, and from the mistakes that my peers have made in the industry. And I published it anyways. I said, you know what, I'll give it a shot and see how it goes, because these are practical tips that I've used myself, and I've been advising and mentoring other startup founders and leaders to apply within their own journey. And the feedback I got is moderately positive, but still it's at the beginning, so this is why I'm looking for higher engagement from the audience, looking from you to share some tips that you think is missing. Yes. Anyways, I think this screen is good enough, right? So if it works here. Yes. Anyways, we'll improvise. So at least this screen works. Okay. Yeah. Can everyone hear me clearly? Back? Thank you. So one of the findings, or why is this important? Why is it important to be a leader in a startup? Because VCs invest in startups that have a strong leadership team. That's the top criteria. That's the top factor that they look at when they're assessing a startup or when they're doing their due diligence. This is, of course, followed by the business model and product. But if you realistically think about it, if you have a good team will build a kick-ass product, right? If you have a business model that's probably not as optimum or class A business model, and you have a really good team, they will most likely pivot and self-correct the path of the startup towards success. And this was a survey that was done by a group of professors. One of them is, of course, Professor Ilya, I think Strebelov, out of Stanford, GSP. So that's why the team, and then we've got two questions that are pivotal questions of this presentation. The first one is joining a startup and working for a startup and being a leader in a startup and having a startup career, the right path for me. I had one of the reviewers on Amazon saying that, I love the book. I decided not to join a startup. Yeah, the startup experience is overrated. And this is a successful outcome for me. Because being in a startup environment is not right for everyone. Yeah, I got gray very quickly in the past 7 years, probably. Yeah, and my wife is probably a witness over there. And I didn't even want a baby, but eventually we had one. She's 7 months old. Yeah, so.
Unpredictable event is happening in the startup and outside.
Yes, yeah. No, but it's also in the startup world, especially for me, I was working for ScaleUp. Yeah, I was working, and I'm still working for PayTabs. We had multiple ups and downs during our journey. So we had the first version, which was an MVP, and it kept growing and couldn't handle the size of customers we had. So we had to build the second version. And during the transition, because of PCI compliance and stuff like that, we didn't do it the right way. We had the number of complaints rose, we lost customers. I couldn't sleep, that was all during COVID. She witnessed all of that. But that's one question you have to ask yourself, right? So is the startup career right for me? And the second question is, if it's right for me, how can I succeed at it? Right? I need to have the right mindset. How can I be prepared very quickly in a very short manner without investing too much time in books and courses?
Just 1 second. My apologies.
Thank you. Sure. Yeah, thank you.
Stick. No, you have to use this. That's for the recording as well. Sorry.
So, yeah. So, how do you succeed in a startup? That's a critical question you need to have, because if you go through the normal journey, most likely, I actually almost got fired multiple times. Yeah. I learned lots of lessons during those discussions because I had to suck it up and be quiet and calm myself and think in the bigger picture to make sure I learn from it and then move on, because it's all about delivering results and adding value to the founders, to the company. And without doing that, I'm just being self-centered and ego. My decision will be ego-based. So,
I'm sorry.
So, sorry about that. Yeah. Anyways, I'll stand next to this. I think that would be easy. So there is an acronym I need to establish with you guys. I keep calling it SOS instead of SkillUp as you scale up every time. And the whole objective behind the SOS, as I mentioned, is to prepare your mind. And the philosophy behind it is three things. Build on the go. And when we're talking about building on the go, I know that people could debate and argue with me that you don't need to build anything at the beginning, you just need to focus on the product. But I use the analogy of building a 3-story building. Let's say you're building a house, you don't have a budget, you want to start with the first floor, but you want to build it eventually into 3-4 stories. If the foundation is not built from the beginning to support these 3 stories, you'll eventually have to demolish the whole building and restart over. And this is what we did eventually. I've seen this happening multiple times with startups. We did the same thing at PayTabs as well, because we needed to build the MVP, and the MVP wasn't good enough to service the big clients like banks and governments. And then making incremental improvements. So one of the key challenges startup leaders face, especially when they come from the corporate environment, they look at, okay, we need to set up call centers. They go and they scope out the whole project, and they start wanting to build the whole thing. It's not necessarily the right thing to do. You need to look at what do you need at that moment. So these are things that it requires the first step to have the mindset, and there are certain tools I'll be introducing later on to help you out with that. Performing quick course corrections. Now, many people who come from the corporate world, even who come fresh out of the university, culturally, we're uncomfortable making mistakes, right? And this is one of the things that we have to reprogram ourselves. And this is something that you hear everywhere. We need to make mistakes and we learn from them. However, when you apply it within the workplace, it's totally different. Because there will be always that one person, right, that will see the doubt within the team. Oh, this wasn't the right way. Yeah, this shouldn't have been done that way. Sorry to use this language, but you're an idiot. I've heard this, right? Probably not directly, even indirectly. And some people told me in my face, this doesn't work. Right? Creating a Kanban, no, it doesn't work. We tried it before, it doesn't work. So all of this has to be factored in, because you need to create believers as well. You take them incrementally. You make the mistakes that you make, they can easily be fixed. You can turn people around. People will start believing with you, and then you move on. Anyways, all of this, I'm just touching these points on a high level. I'll be touching on these in future presentations in more detail. So again, coming back to why SOS leadership? Why am I investing so much time in this? I believe our regions, we are the underdogs at the startup world, right? People pay attention to Silicon Valley, Shenzhen, Hong Kong, London, but then when it comes to us, even the investors, our investors, they doubt us, right? How do we change that? Now the founders, they want to look for the right team members, the right leaders. Sometimes the founders themselves, they're not aware that they need to bring people who are better than them. People who are better than them, leaders who can create other leaders, the next layer of leaders. And that's the type of thinking we need. Unfortunately, many of them don't think that way. So this is why having, preparing the leaders who come on board to understand that they need to shift the way they think and the way they operate in a startup, because they need to support and educate upward as well. It doesn't have to be downward within the team. That means being an advisor as well to the CEO. Not just because the CEO is a founder, I'll just, I'll give in to any kind of desire they have or opinion they have, which is a big mistake that our people are making. And also, at the same time, what I've noticed is that many leaders, when they come on board, they have the ego totally boosted up. I was one of those people. We come with our ego, we're experienced, we've done this, I worked with McKinsey, I've worked with these leaders. I'm here to deliver, right? Give me the resources. But then I started realizing, no, I'm the one who has to do the work. I'll go and talk to the customers. I actually started answering customer complaints myself. And I gave a few of them my WhatsApp. So I would get the feedback from them directly. And that, I believe, was one of the key success factors towards my success. And just on a side note, with PayTabs, when I joined in 2019, we were rated in Trustpilot 1 out of 5. Complaints were right and left. And the CEO brought me, told me, Adel, this is the problem I'm having. I need you to fix this. I said, fine. After 2 years, we reached 4.4, 4.3 out of 5. And over 4 years, we kept that kind of rating above 4. Now we go up and down, we have complaints between now and then, but they're more of feedback. So we take it, there is a place right now, a channel that it gets collected, added to a list for the product team to work on. But all of that, what I'm talking about is because I made the mistake and I quieted my mind, and I said, you know what, I'll make sure that I learn from this and I need to deliver. There is no way I'm failing at this. And I'm not failing at it because of my ego. And of course, I had some mentors and friends that I had to do my sanity checks with it. I should have got
Wow, serious A.
Sorry?
Serious A.
Seriously. So yeah, and this is probably more of an abstract view of how your journey will be. When you join a startup, whether you're a founder or you're joining as an employee, you'll have to go through this whole. It's like a startup within a startup. You know, you go through the value of death, a nested value of death. Yeah. So within the startup journey. So at the beginning, I started in a naive way. Many of us do that. We go in because we don't have the full picture, right? And we start making the mistakes of underestimating the amount of work that needs to be done on specific projects. Things like onboarding customers, things like setting up the customer support channels, having a WhatsApp channel. Can you handle a WhatsApp channel or not? If you can't handle it, don't introduce it, stuff like that. So, and then once you go and start making mistakes and you get the pressure, you either get fired or you continue. And then you go through the pressure, which is the middle stage. And I'm putting these timelines as an abstract view, however it could be shorter or longer. You know, and then you spend long hours trying to learn, educate yourself, explore, talk to peers in the industry, until you come up with solutions, and then you have to wait through it until you see the results. And then this is where you start gaining credibility and more confidence. Once you gain that, it's not the end of the journey. You need to create, this is where you need to transfer this knowledge. Unfortunately, in our region especially, many leaders, what they do, they hog the knowledge, right? They create silos. I need to keep the knowledge in my head, so I'm irreplaceable, right? This is the biggest mistake. You need to detect them, and if you have people like that within your team, get rid of them quickly. First, coach them. Try to change their mindset. I've succeeded at coaching many to change their mindsets. However, there are a few that they will resist in a big way, and they will create a toxic culture for you, so you need to get rid of them. Yeah, so some of these issues are, you will have a small team, you will have limited budget, because you go through the different rounds of funding. You need to be mindful that the budget, the cash flow required to run the operation is very important for you to plan around it. You can't be ignorant to it. And this is why I believe that the communication amongst the leadership team, especially at an early stage, it's very important to communicate with metrics, communicate with, like, I'll give you another example on customer care, because it's the easiest area that I've worked on multiple times. I always have ratios to measure my efficiency. How many tickets are opened per merchant per year? How many tickets are serviced per employee or customer service representative per year? And then you put targets. How can I improve these ratios? And there are reports out there where you could benchmark your operation against people within your industry, whether it's in different locations or. And then you've got also the challenge of retaining people, right? So retaining people at an early stage is very difficult. This is why you have the ESOPs, right? The employee share option. However, in our region, again, you've got, how do you protect the shares you earn? In Silicon Valley, in these places, there are very clear mechanisms. Now, there are mechanisms that are coming to the market that are evolving to protect your earned shares, but how do you calculate the shares that you should be earning? At what stage? All of these are questions that are not, they don't only apply to you as a leader, but also they apply to your teams, right? And yeah, so I'll touch on these things in more details later on.
From your experience, how many really have become rich from this?
In our region,
Yeah.
I know a few people, but honestly, it's I believe that there should be more. There should be more in our regions because, and again, I mean, I haven't done a proper survey. Sorry? Sorry?
I have been here in the startup industry. I know nobody that become rich from this.
Yeah, there are very few. There are very few. So, for example, the founders and the early employees of Zawiya, I know a few people of them that moved, and some of them moved to Silicon Valley. So there are stories there, but if not, we need to have more of these stories as well. So that's the reason why I'd like to raise everyone's awareness of how ESOPs work. Right? It's very important. And the problem is that if the founders don't build that in from the beginning, it's very difficult for them to change it later on, right? Because they can't manage the expectations of the investors, or it will be difficult to change or manage the investors' expectation later on. This is also another view, just to give you a better understanding of how a startup leader's role evolves over the evolution or the growth journey of the startup. At a seed stage, the priority is to build a product, right? And when you're building a product, you don't need to think strategy, you don't need to think, to have such big plans. All you have to do is deliver on the product. That means you need to understand what the customer wants and how to achieve product market fit. Right? So that means you're more involved on enhancements and on operational activities. This is where most of your time goes. And your involvement on strategy is very low because you already have, most likely the mission and vision you have at that stage will eventually change over time. And then you've got the startup stage where you're focused on building the company. You build the basic functions. So again, you go and interact with the customers. Sometimes you have to redo all of this as you pivot within the company because you need to educate yourself. You're kind of an explorer, you're a scientist. You're going, talking to the customers, understanding exactly how you can add value to the customers. How can you differentiate your product to the competitor's product, right? So that's also another thing. And then you've got the scale-up stage. Now, if you notice on the scale-up stage, on the operational side, you're less involved. Because ideally what you would have done, you would have hired a team member, you trained this team member or a few team members on the activities that need to be done, and you would have become a supervisor to them. So you approve certain jobs, and then you put in policies to automate the decision making for them. Right? And then you take a step backward as well. You promote one of these people, so they would become the supervisors. And then they create the next layer of leaders as well. Now, theoretically, it's easy, but in practice, it's challenging because you need to find the right people, right? And this is, again, why I'd like to highlight, again, the difference between us and places like Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley, they have a critical mass of employees, of experienced startup leaders, experienced employees. They have people from the best universities traveling there to start their own companies and work there. So you've got that kind of. So you've got that kind of critical mass over there. So this is why it's so important for you to build the next layer of leaders. And then when you go IPO to a unicorn stage, or you're more focused on strategy. You have a team, probably on a medium level, let's say 20 to 30% of your time, maybe even more, you're focused on enhancement projects and expansion projects, because scalability over there and sustaining the quality of the service delivered is key, is critical. And then on an operational level, only if something goes wrong, you will be involved. And there is also another critical success factor there. When you are on such a high level monitoring the operations, you need to have trigger points, right? You need to have controls. It's like having sensors within the process that detects if suddenly the churn is growing, or the churn of employees or customers growing, that means you need to go and investigate. There's something. So you could assign an internal audit, you could do an audit yourself, you could do a skip level meetings, to explore what's happening. You could talk to the customers. And then this is the final slide that I like to highlight on the different levels. So the way I've built the SaaS philosophy is there are 3 levels. There is level 1, which is the foundation. That means you recalibrate the way you think, right? This is why the principles are there. They're a reference. The book is very short, filled with pictures, images, and it's meant for people who hate reading, right? I read a lot, but I don't like reading, right? So I built it for some people like me. So with every level, there are certain deliverables, right? Objectives. First, you recalibrate the way you think so that you're ready to deliver results and prioritize your activities right. The second level, this is the second book that I'm working on right now, the Fast Mark Framework, and the MVO, which is the Minimum Viable Optimization Playbook. The MVO is focused on optimizing the processes and building the team so that, I'll give you an example. If you're building an onboarding team, right? Initially, it's very easy to take the ID of the person, scan it, ask them a few questions, type things on an Excel sheet, you're done, right? You can do it through Google Docs. But how do you take it to the next level? Now you're scaling up. What's the ratio between having the person that does the checking versus the person that does the collection of the document and the interviews with the customers? So all of these ratios and stuff like that, this will be determined when you go through that work. And the final, for example, FastMark framework, the first thing in it is you've got the F, which stands for financial mindfulness. And I like to start with that because most of us, whoever did any kind of business school education, were taught on financial management, right? That's for the corporate world. However, when we go to the actual working place, we never use it. Unless you're involved in management and putting a budget. Even when you're putting a budget, most of it is fluffy, right? It's just you're trying to tick the box. But in reality, the example that I gave you on building ratios between the number of customers to the number of tickets that are opened a year, the number of CSR or the customer service representatives versus the number of tickets handled per year. All of these are connected to the financial ratios. Because when you go and ask for hiring or growing the number of people within your team, you can immediately connect it to the number of clients, to the revenue that's generated. So less arguments, right? Easier communication with the financial controller, with the CFO. And then the final level this is where Most of us find that challenge. When you're growing within a growing organization, sometimes we become the bottleneck. So how do we avoid becoming that bottleneck? We need to learn how to build a system of delegation that's reliable, that's self-sustaining, and I know that people might actually not like hearing it, but I like calling it scientific, because you're not inventing anything new. It's math. Yeah? Militaries have used the same kind of concept for thousands of years. We're just in the digital age using the same kind of mindset. And then very quickly, I'll be touching on the 7 dimensions. So the 7 dimensions, all of these principles are put into buckets. There are 7 dimensions. The first one, you need to learn how to have self-control and leadership. That means you being productive. I have a phrase I like using is, if you promise me, or give me a promise on a timeline, I tell you, I promise you I won't forget, so please update me if there is a change. And I really don't forget, because I have a system. I'm just following a system. And I like being evil with it sometimes, when I have the opportunity, because it allows, it gives the message to people to be accountable, right? Because I need to be accountable. I want people as well with me to be accountable. That means if I'm promising the CEO, I need my team as well to be reliable. And it could be my peers as well. It could be I'm handling the sales team and I'm talking to the finance team. So when someone promises me something, I need them to stick to it. And there are certain practices in there that are very useful. There are 2 tools I recommend highly. They get things done. The GTD method by David Allen. And then there is Building a Second Brain by Tiago Forte. These are 2 tools that are very useful. I used to invent my tools. And then about 13 years ago, 13 years ago, I started following the GTD methodology. It creates like a funnel system. You collect the data, you allocate time within your calendar to think, you allocate time to schedule, and you really probably will never need a PA if you get used to this. The second one is customer centricity. This is where everything you do within, and I'll give you the experience with PayTabs as well, but everything you do within the organization is to add value for the customers. That means there are interdepartmental SLAs that people need to respect. How do you measure those? How do you get your peers to work with you so that you can meet that timeline? How can you shift the focus from you and me, the interaction between us, to how do we deliver the value to the customers? Because egos are there, our regions, it's a multicultural region. We have people who cluster themselves into different departments, and they will create bottlenecks for us. Yeah, culture and team. Again, with team, people sometimes abuse the word of culture. But in reality, everyone that works within your team or within the company, they want to do a great job. So how can you enable them to do a great job? How can you create a fair environment for them so when they deliver, they get rewarded? People who pretend to be busy, you need to isolate them out. How do you isolate them out? Through creating a system, right? You make work visible for them. And there are many ways you could do that. The easiest ones are Scrum, which developers use, but there is the Kanban approach as well. That's another kind of tactic that many companies use. There is a book, The Toyota Way, as well. If any of you have read, I recommend that you guys read it as well. That's an excellent resource to learn about how these kinds of tactics are used. Process improvement and optimization. Again, this is part of the philosophy. You need to build incremental improvements. The MVO playbook is just one of the tools. Right? I didn't get into the details within this book because I tried to keep it short. In the next book, I'll be getting into more details. I have a webinar scheduled to actually take the audience on that. So when you register, I'll make sure that I send you guys the invite. Founders, this is something that most startup leaders, if you're not a founder and you're an employee, most startup leaders neglect that kind of the dynamics with the founders. Imagine if you have a CEO and you have a CFO, they're both co-founders, and then they start drifting apart from each other. They suck you into their disputes. How do you deal with that? Right? Who do you side with? Is there a way that you can get away from it? Now, the tips I'm adding there is for you to start thinking about it. There is no black and white solution there, but you just being aware of those dynamics, it's very important. There are other, again, resources that I recommend within the book as well that you can find to guide. And then we've got the investors, the same thing. The CEO and the CFO, co-founders, they go through lots of pressures. Fundraising, there is a runway that they have to think about. They have to think about the cash flow, the burn rate. All of these things, usually startup leaders, they ignore because they don't like thinking about the numbers, right? But let's say the CEO comes and says, I need you to prepare an update presentation for the board. Where do you start? Now, the CEO probably is focused more on other areas, and they have time to coach you to prepare that deck for you. What if you change the way you think, right? Ask the CEO, what do they need? And what are you trying to achieve with them? I'm not encouraging you to come up with, to control the narrative with them. But transparency is key as well there. So I'm not asking you not to be transparent, but to make sure that the expectations are managed and the message is aligned with what the CEO is trying to communicate. It's very important for you to empathize and to understand exactly how to communicate the development within your function. How is it connected with the bigger picture within the business? And this is one of the few tips that are there. And finally, you've got the community, which we're doing here, right? I've been involved in multiple projects. One of them was setting up the startup ecosystem in Bahrain, which was the Startup Bahrain initiative. One of the other initiatives as well that I was involved in is Huawei. They had I think they still do. They had the regional office based in Bahrain. So I wanted to see how can I get them to collaborate with the industry, to create more talent that are geared towards working with Huawei. So they opened up a lab with the Bahrain Polytechnic. That was one. I was involved in a project as well where we had a consortium with the University of Montpellier in France. And the idea was to collaborate with our industry peers to develop an IP that we could share later between each other. So all of these are examples that any startup could be involved in. Internships is one, but you could do more within these community events. And I believe that, and not only I believe, actually, if you look at what's being done by the best companies out there, whatever you do, you will certainly have access to certain resources that will give you some kind of competitive advantage, whether it's through talent, whether through access to customers, whether positioning your brand in a certain way. These are also some stuff that you need to think about as you're operating within a startup. And I mean, all of these principles are function agnostic. I tried as much as possible to make sure that whether you're heading finance, HR, business development, at the end of the day, all of these principles apply to any of these leadership functions. Done. We're done. So the book, for some reason, is not showing, but the book is available. What I've done is that the Kindle version, I made it. They didn't allow me to make it more than less than 99 cents. But the idea is that you have access to it. Please share it. I'd like to receive feedback. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can reach me out through the website. And yeah, so I'd like to see how, I mean, the whole purpose of this is to serve the community. So, thank you.
We'd like to know more about you. Like, this came from somewhere, not typically the last 5 years working in a startup.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
But I think that's one of those technical challenges today.
Yeah, it's like,
You can blame the.
Yeah.
yeah, so basically, I like to highlight the graveyard of projects I have. Yeah, so I've got many failed projects, some of them because I've done them on the side, because I had my first kid at the age of 23. It is what it is, it's a blessing, but it put lots of responsibility on me. I couldn't just leave my job, and the ecosystem wasn't developed. So I was always trying to do something on the side. Yeah? Sorry. So that's one thing that was a lesson. If you're not dedicated to a project, most likely it will fail. Not because the project is not the right project, or it's not the right time. Sorry, you had a question.
Yeah, actually, I love that decision. If you want to summarize what you offer today, what you're trying to sell us today?
I'm not trying to say anything.
Just choose one idea you're trying to sell.
The book.
That's
one thing. The more the one of it.
Yeah, the book is part of that, but
Maybe the link.
yeah, the reality is, it's how can we elevate the way that we operate? Because one of the reasons, I mean, today if you're fundraising, everyone is facing difficulty, especially if you're at a scale-up stage, right? And one of the reasons why, at least this is my belief, one of the reasons why many investors don't believe in, I don't want to say they don't believe in us, but probably underestimate us, yeah. So two things. One of them is because the markets are fragmented, yeah, so they don't believe that we can, they believe that we can't overcome these Yes, I mean the governments, they want companies to be there. They all, like in Saudi right now, if you want to do business there, you have to be located there, especially with the big companies. So all of this forms a challenge, right? So if every government does that, what happens? So that's one. So you will never have access to a critical mass in an open market like the US or in Europe, right? So the second thing is the teams, right? Because we have many horror stories that we hear here and there, right? So the objective from this is how do we elevate the way that we operate, right? That's my mission. If there is a way or system that I could introduce in the market that can elevate or enable anyone, it's like a driving license, like getting, instead of an academic degree, but hacking your brain, or hacking our brains, so that instead of investing 5 years making mistakes to become successful, we do it in 3 months, right? So really that's my mission.
Thank you. Sir, I would like to ask perhaps one question. I try to make it as relevant as I could. I have not understood the purpose of your book exactly. For example, I would say, in the galaxy of the best books that are written on management and leadership, for example, when Jack Welch wrote his book, or maybe you can say Napoleon Hill, or maybe whoever gave the idea of the tipping point, they always had a uniqueness. They brought a new idea, or they had a lot of experience of their own selves, on the basis of which they wrote the book, and it became successful. As far as I have understood through your presentation, is that mostly the points that you have pointed out, communication, having a team, and marketing, customer focused, they seem pretty regular things which I have been hearing and reading for the last 25 years. Perhaps the first lesson in Potluck was about customer centric. So and you also mentioned maybe there is something uniqueness about this region that you will be talking about. But what I understood from your presentation is that all the points that you said, they are pretty at basics. There's nothing uniqueness that I could find out. which has motivated you to exactly write the book, it's a lot of pain, it's a lot of energy. So I fail to understand what's the uniqueness and how is it going to make to that galaxy of books which I would like it to see. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. Anyways, so I really appreciate your feedback. Again, you seem to me you're a very experienced man. You have lots of knowledge. That's probably why the content that's shared, at least on a high level, probably it's not geared towards you. However, it's just an eye opener. There are many people, at least from what I've seen, that peers that got fired, peers that couldn't make it. They just neglected the basic things of getting involved, getting their hands dirty and so on. Please go ahead.
Sir, on the basis of that, if I would be you, maybe I would think of other ways because it's a very different world altogether than writing a book which was very pertinent 25 or 30 years back. So I would have looked into many other ways in order to inculcate the same idea, which is your actually point of view, which is actually your objective. Then writing a book, perhaps in my opinion, the span of focus for most of the youth and most of the people who are founders is so small these days, in my opinion, I may be wrong, that to read a book and to extract the right things out of it might be a far-fetched idea than the many interactive kind of platforms that are available today in order to get the point across. So perhaps if I would be you, I actually tried to write a book and then I finished the idea because I thought, I don't see a point. It's really going to make a difference or not because the world has changed. So
you know what's funny? That I agree with you. This is why I'm experimenting right now. This is the first edition that has gone out. I've been doing short videos on the same concept. I made sure that the book is very short, less text, more references, so that people can always, if you're interested in a specific subject and you want to learn more about it, there is a recommendation where you can go. This is why also I'm using this.
I'm reading a book every week. Most of the people in the industry, they are a good reader. They are not non-readers. So I don't like short stuff. So usually I spend. I usually read a book and as a hard copy and I listen one through the journey from here to the Abu Dhabi. So two per week. So I think most of the people in the industry, if you want to be a builder, you have to be you have a long life learner. So I'm not sure if can I agree with this idea, but creating a book, creating something, you want to create a theory. So to convince me, you cannot really sell me anything like in 30 seconds, you will sell me something. So I have to be convinced from all the aspects through your theory. And this should be through the book, through a long session like this. So.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Yes.
So she knows that I'm calling her a joy killer. So you know.
You were supposed to wait for those lights.
Just by
Sticking to your mission, actually, it really resonates with me. Also, someone who's gone from the corporate world in the NHS back in the UK to startup world. And I'm interested in what would it take to get more, I think we call them intrapreneurs, people who are in organizations and to devise and develop that entrepreneurial spirit. Because I think, having gone through it myself, I realize how liberating it can be. You know, from being, it is scary as well. I think I've got to share that as well. But to go from an employee to someone who takes that kind of destiny in their own hands and then grow that. And I'm interested in your thoughts as to what's required to get more people thinking in that out of the box way. Because I think that actually will help the companies themselves that are currently employed.
Yeah, thank you for sharing this. Honestly, I've been thinking about the same question as well. What's the best way? Is it through these community events? Is it through courses? I'm actually halfway done with through Udemy course, talking a bit more details about this. You know, but yeah. So is it talking to HR heads? Let them do. It's not also just distributing the book. It should be certain initiatives because to implement a mindset, it's creating a habit, right? It's about creating a routine within the organization, and then it becomes the seed, and then it flourishes. The book, The Creative Confidence, tells an excellent story about how IDEO was able to achieve that creative confidence with the employees. So, and I believe that that's the phrase, creative confidence. How can you create the seeds of confidence within every team within the organization? And I believe that is not only the responsibility of HR, but that's the responsibility of the function heads. Now, HR could introduce it, could be a course, could be a book, whatever it is. And I like the idea also of design thinking, yeah, but again, most people within our regions, they don't like terminologies like that. They feel that you're being too theoretical, and this is what I've been told as well, multiple times. So you have to conceal those ideas, the principles, and throw them in without the names. Over time, depends also on the culture of the company, but within this region, it works best that way. So that's, again, my opinion might be, and I'm looking for stories. If someone, please debate with me, please correct me. So this is an open forum, right? Whether during this session or after this session. Thank you. Thank you so much.
So, yeah, a few technical challenges when we started, but I think we got through that. So, as she said, you'd like to meet with you guys, understand it's not easy writing a book. It's not easy sharing one's journey, knowledge gain. Everybody has their own perspective to things. So I think he shared his, and he'd love to know more about from you guys and see how he can add to his next book. So thank you, Adel, again. Thanks a lot. So he's kind enough to give out 5 books. He's going to select 5 winners. And
by the way, I haven't signed them yet.
Once
I
you read
I
it.
wanted to say.
That's why there's a name.
Yeah, put their names there. Huh?
Their names are in there. He just has to draw them and
Drum roll, please.
approach them.
No drums?
Drum roll. There you go.
I want to write a testimony.
Yes, sir.
I've known this man for about 2.5 years, and he was a mentor of mine at this point as well. Highly respectful of his journey. I know him from the time that he started writing the book and the amount of time he spent writing the book and how many meetings he did not attend because of the book he was writing. No.
I'll just listen.
But there's been a lot of investment. My father wrote the book as well. It's a hard thing, right?
Absolutely.
But, you kind of put yourself out there and you try to be as transparent about your journey as possible. But it's important to take that feedback as well.
Absolutely.
I think it's really amazing, right? So.
Thanks a lot. So 5 lucky winners. It's not that you just get the book. You actually have to read it, and we'd love to learn what you guys think about it. Maybe write a story about it. But we'd love to hear maybe the next few sessions.
Yeah.
Then we'll call you back, and then we'll have a session where the 5 of you will come up and say what you think about the book and what you think should be there, and so on and so forth. So please, start reading today. So get the book.
Let them choose.
Okay.
Huh?
You know what? I'll let you choose. You pick the first one. You pick the first winner.
He hasn't even registered.
No, this is because this is only people that are watching.
Oh yeah. So this is only for people who registered. So if you haven't registered, I give you 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Who hasn't registered? Who wants to register? Checked in.
I didn't register. Where's my name?
Astaghfirullah.
You live upstairs.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
all right, cool. So the first winner.
I think he will give me one without.
Sira. Okay, this is going to give it to you.
That's
To them. Don't be enjoying, please.
Why in a white envelope?
So we don't see the book?
Is it a print out? Thank you.
But before you go, at the end,
Just sign it. Just sign it, yes.
Later, okay.
I believe you will come without this.
So you have to want
I want to come.
But you said you would pay for it. So go for the second one. Okay. Oh, sure.
Coming up?
So you get a book. You get a book. Kamran. So you're definitely going to comment on the
Oh, that's a lucky winner who jumped out. Yeah, that's all who really needs it.
Nauman Sabir. Yes. Also, in this first group of 6 lines, you get a reward when you join. Aryan Mehta. Aryan Mehta, going once. Going twice.
Next.
Lost a book.
It's me, it's me.
Who wrote this?
I know it's difficult.
Marcos? Olos? No? Marcos?
Marco.
Chesty? Chetit? I apologize, I can't read it. So the next one.
Adel, خلاص, give it one for me.
Hisham Abdullah. Yes! First time as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
One more lucky winner. So who's it going to be?
Mo Khaldir. Told me. Mo Khaldir.
Hidayatullah. Hidayatullah. Yes. Congratulations. Thank you, Adel. Round of applause, please, again. Thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you. For those with books, we'd love to hear from you next week or the week after. And then we'll bring back Adel to comment on this. We've got a gentleman who would like to share. So they've been selected as finalists for exactly which event, I'm not sure. So global finalists for which event? Edition X, okay. So Global Startups Award. I'll let you say a few words and then take it.
Hello everyone, I'm Kia, CEO and founder of Hameed. Okay. After we have won the Middle East Startup Award in 2 categories, People's Choice and Best Web3 and AI Startup of the Year. Now we are finalists in the Global Startup Awards as a representative of UAE and Middle East. We need your support to vote for us. Please scan this QR code and vote. Thank you.
What exactly do you guys do?
You're training? I think you know the way
Don't assume. None of us know. Go for it.
We are Payboy with the crypto payment solution. We have multiple solutions like payment infrastructure for government, for fintechs, for banks, and on-ramp and off-ramp payments. That's all. And now we are finalists. This is the important part of my speaking, and just scan the QR code and vote for us.
Quiet down, please.
Sorry. I'm not satisfied.
Yes.
Who are your customers? How much money have you made? How many transactions have you made?
Not important. Please vote for us.
If you want us to give you the vote for the best companies out of the Middle East, you have to give us a good reason.
We are representing
Motivate people.
UAE.
Let him all that and he's going to invest in you. Come on.
Yeah. going to invest. Please ask again.
Tell us more about your achievements. Tell us what you're doing,
So, our platform is fully decentralized and make simple the payment, crypto payment solutions. There are more than 500 million crypto holders, but less than 20,000 companies that accept crypto.
Can we have one session, please?
You have 500 million customers.
So you got 5 minutes,
No,
please go for it.
there are 500 million people.
How many customers do you have?
Around 500. That's we are early stage, yeah. And we have technology, we have MVP, and we try to fundraising right now. Our solution is act as a hub and connect third parties, DeFi banks, governments, and we provide services as an infrastructure of payment, the smart city, smart devices, everything.
What is the difference between you and Ripples? What are you doing different than Ripples?
We enable people to use Ripple and other cryptocurrencies as a payment method. We solve the micro payment problems. You can pay less than 5 seconds with any cryptocurrency, with any wallet through our solution.
Thank you very much.
Let's scan this QR code right now. Very simple, only scan this and vote for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. What I'd like to do is, I would like to invite all the winners of the books to take them out of the envelopes and join us on stage for a quick photo, please. Yeah, that could be a session actually. Book reading. One more. Kamran, we need you, please. We have one more in the book. There's one more person who's just... He's sitting it. Oh, he's gone. I think the gentleman you have the... Okay, he's gone. Thank you, everybody. And I'll let you leave. Enjoy the weekend. We'll see you guys next Friday. Thanks a lot.